All right, dude, we're back. Where did we leave off?
The full intro.
Yeah, that's awesome. Still, I haven't told anyone about me, but I think, I don't have...
We'll do that on the next one.
Yeah, right. I don't have a story.
We'll turn it on you.
Yeah. If I had an interesting story, I would tell it. I don't really have an interesting story.
No, that's not true. That's BS.
I have a very,
That's BS.
I come from very...
You're a white boy with daddy money.
Yeah, true. Please drop that down in the comments, please. Drop a like.
Yeah, there's so many interesting things going on. What do we see? I don't know. This week I saw Gary Vee talk about he encouraging his audience to stop reading books, stop paying for masterminds.
Oh, really?
I thought that was pretty funny.
I'm just about to start one. Don't say that, Gary Vee. I'm serious.
I think it was kind of like the don't buy real estate. I think it's pretty similar to that.
Got it. Right.
He's like, I know you're going to do it, but I'm going to say the right thing, which is tell you not to do it. You're still going to do it. You're still going to go to the classes. You're still going to go to the masterminds. You're still going to read the books because you haven't gotten to where you want to be in your journey. So
he espouses all sorts of nonsensical things that maybe it resonates with people, but I remember not really understanding who he was, Gary Vee, and seeing him biting his fingernails it really bothers me, biting his fingernails, standing there like this in somebody's front yard, negotiating for Hot Wheels.
he still does it.
He still does this?
He's still out there.
See, that's the USSR. That's the Russian, right? That hasn't exited, right? Through the system. Still interested in going to these little bazaars, right? As they call them, right? And negotiating for Hot Wheels that he's going to post on eBay or Amazon. But
it's hard to tell if that stuff is super authentic or not. I assume it is.
It probably doesn't do it anymore, but yeah.
No. I mean, I think very recently.
Oh.
He's going to people's garage sales.
Oh, interesting.
Picking stuff up and reselling it.
I wish he'd come. I think they're outlawed in my neighborhood, but I think if we could go over to where we grew up or whatever.
But he's such an interesting cat. All right. I mean, you see the level of success and still, can we all explain exactly what he does for a living?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
So interesting. I'm going to stop you right there because we were at Dan Fleischman's ranch, the wild jungle that he has with him and the real Tarzan. And, 2 weeks ago. And we were talking about Gary Vee and Dan goes, well, he doesn't sell anything apart from everything that he sells.
Only those things.
Just those things. Because he has a media company. He has shoes. He has that whole NFT thing, right?
Yeah, he did some NFT projects.
So he does sell things, but
he is a merchant.
Yeah, as it were.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us, I shouldn't label us, but I think a lot of us, I'll just say us, tend to be merchants.
Yeah. I'm proud when I see Gary Vee from the same background as me, having this enormous audience, this enormous impact. I feel proud. I feel like, wow, that's amazing. That's America.
One of us made it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you even think of yourself as someone who made it out?
I think it gets harder and harder as the percentage of your lifespan spent here in comfort grows relative to what you experienced.
It sort of whitewashes history. You forget where you came from.
You forget.
Yeah.
But you can't really take that away because it's so formative, right? It created so many of your neuroses and things you worry about and things that you're interested in.
Well, hold on one second, because you said neuroses and it struck a nerve with me. Yeah. What are yours?
Many neuroses.
Tell me.
So many fears
just
and
between you and me.
Just between us.
Yeah, just between us. What are yours?
We'll hit those things. Don't worry. We'll cover your neuroses,
give me
my
one.
neuroses.
No. Nobody cares about me. But everyone's interested in you.
I mean, I think even as early on, maybe the first time I can remember coming to America and feeling like an outsider, right?
Yeah.
I think that was in 5th grade. I remember my son thinks this is the funniest thing in the world.
Yeah.
I told him that the nickname that some kid gave me in fifth grade was Pampers. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
I didn't even understand what a diaper was, right? We didn't have them.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they thought it was funny. And the more I reacted to it, the more, the funnier he thought that it was.
Typical
right?
bully, right?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And so, just that not speaking English as well as you'd like, feeling like an outsider, wearing clothes from Pick and Save, that twists something inside of you.
Big loss.
Right? It creates something. And so it creates, a little bit of insecurity, right? And something to overcome, right? Something to overcompensate for, right? Prove them wrong. And I think that's a big story in the first, I would say, I don't know, 20 years, right?
Yeah.
After fifth grade of my life is I wanted to overcome, right? I had enough grit, enough ambition, right? I wanted to show them now who they are.
Shout out to the guy that called you Pampers.
Please comment. We'd love to meet you.
Let's interview him. What does he do today?
Pampers?
What does he do today?
Oh, hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious stuff.
Sometimes as kids, you don't even realize how vicious you are.
Yeah.
Especially, and this is something I've noticed. This is sort of divergent to kind of like the topic of what we're talking about, tangential. But if you grew up with an older brother, you are bullied in general. And you have to have tough skin.
Or an older sister.
Yeah, that's true. I was bullied by my older sister. But you're bullied. And then so the bullied becomes the bully.
Later on.
Yeah. It's like
natural.
I think it's tragic. Yeah. It's tragic.
I tell my kids very simple stuff when they feel bullied in school.
Yeah.
I say, have some empathy for that person. They're going through something, right? They're sad.
Yeah.
And, they find that so interesting.
Yeah. It's the same thing, right? My kids don't get bullied yet, but they've faced some sort of racism in school because they don't look like everybody else. And, I tell them that like everybody looks different. America's a big melting pot. Don't be concerned about that. But with respect to bullies, I mean, the only thing you can say is that like, have some empathy for that person. Because as we've learned, anger is a secondary emotion.
It's a sadness.
Yeah. They're just sad. They're just sad. And so like you said, have some empathy. And that's one of the things in business, and that's probably a good segue. We've got some extra time to talk. How often have we met small business owners who are angry?
Yeah. I think it's part and parcel to feeling like you should do something on your own. You know better.
Right. Because that's
what makes you think that you should start your own pizza place.
I can make the pizza better. Nobody can make a pizza like I can.
You're angry at the other guy that you just worked for 3 years?
Because he didn't appreciate me. He didn't appreciate
your ideas. You had deep and meaningful ideas about pizza.
Pineapple and Canadian bacon. Yeah. He didn't approve of it.
No.
And that's the weird thing. Like,
and that probably goes back to fifth grade in some way.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Right?
Because that's a tough year for everyone.
Tough.
Right? Like fifth grade through middle school. That's where you see cliques start to develop.
Yeah. Right? Middle school even more so.
Middle school even more so, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But it's like, the plight of a small business owner. I meet a small business owner and I'm like, I can like pick them out like, in public places. Like, see that guy treating the waitress poorly? Guarantee that's a small business owner. Giving them all the opinions and feedback and all this kind of stuff. I go to a restaurant, I don't say a word. Not because I'm worried that they're going to spit in my food, but how hard is it to find help to work at a restaurant today?
It's impossible.
So the person who's doing it isn't doing it because they love being a waiter or waitress. They're doing it because this is the job that they could get right now, right?
In most situations.
Hi, these French fries are cold. Like, dude, I'm not that guy, dude. Right? I'm not that guy. I'm sorry. This soup is cold. I just it's just a meal. And when I see small business owners, the way they interact with customers, this fish tastes frozen.
Yep.
And the owner comes up to you and is like, our fish is not frozen. Our fish is not frozen. You're like, well, it tastes frozen. And you see the anger, like a cartoon, like Looney Tunes with the smoke coming out of the ears. You just know that like he had the drive, he had the ambition. What he lacked were the interpersonal skills. What he lacked was empathy. What he lacked was like introspection, I should say, on
self-awareness.
Brilliant.
Right. And that drive and desire to work on yourself over and over and over again. Treat yourself like a canvas or a piece of stone that's being chiseled into something amazing. Right. They stopped at some point and said, you know what?
Yeah.
Good enough.
Close enough for government work. Yeah. Close enough for government work.
That's going to work for me. Yeah. And you're like, nah, it doesn't really work for anybody else. We're like,
It reminds me of 7th grade pre-algebra, where you have positive integers and negative integers.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like,
that's deep.
Yeah. And you're like, and this, many people might not be able to like get on the same plane that I'm on right now, but like,
no, it's very advanced.
What I'm trying to say is that you can have drive and you can have ambition, and those are like positives, right? And no matter how big those integers are, if you multiply those large integers that are positive by a negative number, right? And
check
then
the math lab.
Does the math check out? The problem is that negative number overwhelms the positivity of the combined integers. And what I mean by that is like, if you have drive and you have ambition, but you also lack self-awareness, that self-awareness can eat away at all the positivity, at all the greatness, at all the creativity. It can eat away at everything. And what you're left with is a small business.
Or a politician, one or the other.
I think at best you end up as a politician, right? A politician.
At worst is a very small
a politician
business
that lacks awareness and says flippant things. And for some people it works, right? People are like, well, would you want to be friends with Trump? No. Would you vote for him? Maybe, right? Depends on like who else was the,
what are the alternatives?
Yeah. You're always choosing, right? The best of the worst. And I think with small business owners, right? The reason that they fail to make the jump from being a small business owner to a medium-sized business owner, right, is, some would say, is the lack of professionalism within the organization. But I think another way to explain it is the self-awareness. I'm the best at marketing. I'm the best at HR and hiring. I'm the best at cooking and cleaning and this, and everybody's got to do it my way.
And that's the quality that you're able to identify in 20 seconds.
Right.
Within 20 seconds of meeting someone,
you're
like, well, this person has all the answers.
Yeah.
And all that tells you is they have none.
Right.
None of them.
But the funniest thing is, and there's an old adage about this, which is the emperor has no clothes, right?
Yep.
The emperor is sitting there on his throne naked, and he's talking to everyone, and everyone's like, oh my God, like, does this guy not realize it? And none of these small business owners realize it. And that's one of the messages that I want to communicate to people in these like masterminds, which is like, when you look in the mirror, who stares back? Do you remember we asked Jeff Fenster this question? This was a great question on our podcast that we did with Fenster. I asked him, because I'm always interested, like, how self-aware are you? And his answer was very interesting. I said, well, when you stare in the mirror, who looks back at you? And you know what his response was?
I forget.
It was my enemies. So he doesn't even see himself in the mirror. He's not even concerned with that. He's just concerned with winning, right? Being the best he can be, having the best friendships, having the best business, having the best relationships. He's like, he is the relationship guy. And I think, there's something to be said about people like that have, because it's similar drive to you, right? It's the drive to always get better. Whereas like you said, right? You have these Rembrandts and all these famous painters who are reusing their old canvases, painting over it, trying to paint a better and better picture. But eventually the small business owner goes,
good enough.
Larry David.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
And
but not Fenster
amazing.
and not you.
No, but it's very important to understand that this whole self-help industry, right? Everything you see online when you are young or you're a small business owner and you watch this content, it can lead you to think that this journey is never ending and that you should never be happy with anything. And I don't think that's our message.
Yeah.
Our message is to continue to improve yourself, but also understand when enough is enough, when it's time to pivot. There's such nuance in all of these things that's lost when you're watching some of these talking heads.
Yeah, that really is a good point, because I feel like everyone's teaching you to rise above and overcome and betterment and self-awareness and save money and invest money and do 100 push-ups today and 100 sit-ups. And if you don't have 6% body fat, then, who are you to run an organization? But what they don't teach is to love yourself. I think as a small business,
missing in a lot of these messages.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when is enough? When is enough, right? When do you take time for yourself to feel happy and satisfied?
Yeah.
Because if you're achieving great heights in business, but you never feel whole,
Yeah.
what have you accomplished? You're not successful.
Yeah. That's a difficult thing.
Very.
That's a difficult thing. I think I'm challenged with that same sort of limitation, which is you grow a business, you put your heart and soul into it, you achieve some level of success, and then you wake up in your mid-40s and you're like, well, what have I sacrificed to do that? And it's time. It's time with your wife. It's time with your kids. It's time with your loved ones, friends, and family. But also what nobody ever talks about is time unto yourself.
And that's such an amazing, amazing point that I bet 1 million people out there can relate to in their, let's say, late 30s, early 40s, maybe even in their 50s. You might watch a piece of content like I did this week. What's the content say? It says, burn the boats.
Yeah.
Burn the boats. What does burn the boats mean? It means give yourself no outs, no exits.
Right.
Go as hard as you can and forget that there's even a possibility of plan B.
Right.
And what does that literally mean? Mortgage your house, take out credit card debt, right? Bet everything on these ideas that you have.
Right.
How appropriate is this advice for someone who's gotten somewhere in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s? Is this really advice for people in their 20s? Who is this advice for? And so again, nuance, right? That's kind of my word in all of this.
Yeah.
Is nuance is required.
Yeah.
Right? When do you burn the boats? How many boats do you burn? Is burning boats even a good idea for some people?
It's funny. They talk about all of these people, whether it's Sam Walton or, Grant Cardone or I don't know why I'm including those two people in the same sentence, but
it's interesting.
Yeah. But, these people have achieved some sort of, high level of success. They're like, well, they didn't achieve it until they're in their mid 40s. I wouldn't tell people to burn the ships. Don't burn the ships in your mid 40s, right? Like, not a good idea. Don't mortgage your home, your primary residence, right? In order to...
Honey, I sold the house.
Yeah. What? Like, I'm going to create a CPAP machine that's on your throat, right? We were touring a piece of property this morning to purchase, and the guy who was selling it was telling us, oh, medical device company. I look around, I said, sure about that? Sure about that? Because you're the only one here. And then, I don't know, he was older than us. He was probably in his mid 50s.
At least.
He looked like a mad scientist, and he had zero self-awareness. He said, I own a medical device company. Right. And it's like, again, going back to like burning the ships, not responsible. Somebody needs to there needs to be a come to Jesus in this like mastermind movement where people are explaining, hey, there's nuance, there's nuance to this, right? It's not all about waking up, pretending you're David Goggins, running 100 miles, destroying your knees,
your marriage, your family life, whatever else, right?
Yeah. I mean, these people that you see on stages, they are unique. Do you want to go to their seminars and hear them speak? Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to be their friends? Ooh, maybe.
Do you want to walk a mile in their shoes?
Maybe. I've read the Goggins books. Does not seem like a guy we would want to be friends with. Does not seem like a guy that would have a lot of empathy, right? Like, hey,
based on his videos.
Yeah. Just like end of the year, my dad passed away. Just imagine like, hey man, dad passed away today. I won't be able to make the 100-mile ruck tomorrow. Bullshit. Who's going to carry the boats? Huh?
Get the running shoes on.
Yeah. And like, no, I want to take a moment and I want to sulk, which is a very natural human emotion. And it's part of a healing process, because I think the nuance to it is like, if you don't go through that natural human process, you bottle it all up, right? And then you explode eventually.
Yeah.
These emotions overflow at the wrong time, and you lash out at friends and family and employees, your husband, your wife, what have you. So it's just, these make great stories.
And great characters.
Yeah. And so it's delicate, right? Like you don't want to fall into the trap of becoming a caricature
of a human being.
Right.
Yeah. It's super interesting. Right. And this nuance, right? This word that we keep talking about, it's permeating American society, right? It's not just missing in social media and influence. It's missing in politics. We see that.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
Well, meaning that today you got to join a gang, right? And the gangs aren't very nuanced. It's this side or that side.
It's very like end of the spectrum based.
And you say, but I respect certain things about one side and I value certain things about the other side. And I don't want to be told that only one point of view is the right point of view.
Yeah.
But you're not given a lot of grace today, a lot of options in terms of being able to feel that way.
I think that's also part and parcel of a two-party system, which is America. I think when you have a parliamentary system like you do in the UK, you have to create a coalition government, which in my opinion, right, is a better way to govern.
No.
Right? Because it's unhealthy to be on one end of the spectrum, just as it's unhealthy to be on the opposite end. That's where the poles come from, the word polarization. Right? The poles, the North Pole, the South Pole. Right? Not everyone wants to live on the North Pole. Not everyone wants to live on the South Pole. And I think with politics, you have to kind of choose a gang, right? And so if we had a different type of government, which I think we should, right? Then it would be more inclusive of people that were more middle of the road.
Yeah, and people also draw conclusions, not conclusions, but parallels between, for example, the debates you might see today, where people aren't being very polite with each other, to something you may have seen during the Reagan administration or that era of the 70s and the 80s, where even the politicians seem to be a bit more civil with each other.
Yeah. It's the civics part. That's not taught, right, in education anymore. And the civility, right, within civics. Would you want your son or daughter at a middle school age watching one of these political rallies? Never mind the debates, but the political rallies that you see on television. Those,
I mean, we use it as a teaching moment to show them things not to do and things not to say.
Isn't that wild?
Which is amazing.
These are people that are potentially going to lead our country, and they just say wild.
And it's true across the board. This has nothing to do with left or right.
And it's not even America.
Yeah.
Right? New president of Argentina.
It's in Brazil, Argentina, Poland. It's wherever you look.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
It's a global issue. It is not a Republican or Democrat issue.
No. It's I think the issue is now somebody opened the door who will remain nameless, right? A single politician, a U.S. politician, in my opinion, opened the door to this. And everyone's like, hey, party over here. Let's go. Right? We don't have to be civil anymore in our discourse. And then you see the protests and all the sort of polarizing behaviors in the U.S., right? And they're like, well, it's okay for us to act this way because the leader that we identify with on which
it's cool.
Yeah. Whichever side of the, whatever side of the political spectrum that you belong to, right? It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. I think, we definitely need to get back to, because in school, they're teaching people to fall in line.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
Respect this person, respect that person, regardless of, and then, you have the...
Yeah, imagine if in school your children are told one day that words are violence.
Yeah.
Maybe some words.
Right.
But boy, an awful lot of words seem to be violent these days.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so we go back to what you and I talked about earlier, freedom of speech.
Yeah.
You said you're willing to give some of it up.
Oh, dude, I would give up free speech in a second.
I don't know. I was born in Soviet Union. I cherish my freedom of speech dearly.
Yeah. Maybe because I was born here. Some of the sort of like core tenets of the U.S. democracy, right, I don't necessarily hold as dear to my heart as others. Like I do like the personal property aspect, right? I do like the right to bear arms.
You like that part?
Yeah, I like that one.
I think that's kind of silly, but neither here nor there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll get into that another day. But the free speech thing, I don't know. I think I could move to give me a country where you don't have free speech. I'm trying to think off the top besides like North Korea or Cuba. But like I think I could fall or China.
Would you like to go to Russia?
That is one country that I'm not keen on staying in, but visiting would be visit Russia before Russia visits you. If that makes sense. I would just be careful. Obviously, this type of thing would not be cool there. Like, hey, we're just going to hop on a podcast today and talk about politics.
Depending on what we would say.
If you're Navalny, he tried to do that same thing, right?
What an interesting guy.
Yeah. We'll get into him next episode.
Yeah. I think this is great.
I think we said our piece. We'll see you guys next time.
Boom.
All right, man. Adios. Later.